Yo, it's your boy Vatroh, and in today's video, I'm going to be answering questions from the Apex competitive Reddit, as well as my Twitter. Basically, I went ahead and asked the question, do you guys have any questions of what it's like to compete in Apex Legends or Battle Royales for that matter? So I was going through and I was screenshotting all of the questions, but then I realized there's just so many questions that I think I found a solution to it. I'm going to go through and just read these questions with you guys, answer them as best as I can, as deep as I can. Sorry if this video takes a little long and I ramble, but I am going to get through everybody's questions because, you know, if somebody took the time to write out this question, time out of their day, it's only right I give them a response. So with all that being said, let's get into this motherfucking video. All right. We are on the competitive Apex Reddit, and our first question comes from PC Swan 96. I was going to do this video different, but there's so many questions, so we're just going to scroll through this, or else this video is going to take me literally 6-7 hours to do. So they say, great to have a pro or ex-pro, whatever, willing to engage with the comp subreddit, lol. Listen, it's tough to do as a pro player, but now that I'm retired, I'm going to be deep in the comp Reddit, so be ready. Few questions, a couple that I think some up-and-coming talent would definitely want to know. In your opinion, what is the most important or most valuable way to practice both the macro rotates and micro team fights, 3v3s, etc.? My biggest advice for this question would to be start grinding ranked with your team and then playing in like the Venom scrims every single day, and just really, you know, when you're ranking, you know, play for your RP and stuff, but really focus in on trying to work on what you want to work on instead of just kind of playing mindlessly, if that makes sense. So definitely scrimming and ranked. How do you manage the mental side of comp? Does it just come down to being good friends with your teammates and not taking things personally when things go south? I think that definitely helps. Like if you see Sweet, I always think of like Sweet versus How. Like they're both two accomplished IGLs, but two differently like ball games on the IGL approach. And I really think like some people would strive better under How, you know, with like a kind of authoritarian, and then some people like me would thrive better under like a Nano or Sweet, where, you know, it's kind of like you don't have to worry about getting like raged at like that, if that makes sense. But really with me, I would always try to be as close with my teammates as possible, because to me it was like going into war with your brothers, as corny as that may sound. And then really managing the mental health side of comp, as somebody who had like mad anxiety while even competing, I'd always have to just remind myself that my teammates are super capable. So as long as I fill my role and do what I need to do, we should win, you know what I'm saying? So that always helped me, knowing and having such high confidence in both my teammates. Who do you reckon is the most underrated team? I would say BR Demons, who are currently on the come up, consistent of Aiden, Reeds, and Vayne. I know they recently like got together, but Reeds and Aiden have been trying to test out thirds for a little bit now. So I would say them, and honestly CLG. As corny as like biased as that may sound, I would say them, BR Demons kind of in the unsigned, and Luminosity are for sure my top three underrated. And then individuals in the pro league right now, it seems like everybody's kind of been in the pro league. I would honestly say though, Mamba and Nano are super underrated players still to this day, and somebody who's gotten their respect but has recently, that I saw like from a while ago, they're insane. I think Hackula, I think Vayne, and I also think of Gildersons for controller players. Comes to the most overrated, I really don't want to answer that, because everybody has their strong suits, has their weak points, and at the end of the day, it's a battle royale, so you can kind of get away with, you know, lacking in certain areas if you excel in others. But honestly, I'm not here to hate on people or anything like that, so I'm going to skip that. I'm sorry, Swan, forgive me. What would it take for Olympus or KC to be comp ready? Do you ever see either being in the rotation? Honestly don't, because of how the maps are set up and kind of how the choke points flow. I just don't see it. They definitely tried Kings Canyon a while ago in the old format before Pro League, and it was absolutely terrible. So I think right now with World's Edge and Storm Point, it's good, but I also am hoping that the map in Season 15 is really good in ranked and competitive play. Who is the best player in the game that no one has ever heard of? I would honestly say my boy Forby, who's kind of like on the come up right now. He's a mechanical like warlord, movement god, aim god, whatever you want to call it. He makes banger montages, and he doesn't compete, so when it comes to competitive, I would definitely say the whole team of Vayne. Vayne's kind of already established, but Aiden and Reeds are for sure on the come up. Alrighty, and the second question we have here is from Lapsy. Would be interesting to hear your thoughts on breaking into a very saturated competitive scene and how it felt to play in Pro League versus other community tournaments, etc. Was there truly a huge skill difference, or does it feel like there is any gatekeeping based on the qualification process? Right, to answer this, I would honestly say I had a very, very blessed, easy road to pro. It's definitely not as easy as I was fortunate to have, but breaking into the competitive scene, you kind of realize, at least for me, I looked at it like these people have been playing competitive since I was on console. So for me, I just needed to learn how to play competitive Battle Royale in order to catch up. But I honestly feel like with Battle Royale consisting of 20 teams in a lobby, it kind of makes it easier to kind of break into that top echelon because there's a lot of tournaments, especially if you know people, because esports, as sad as it is, it's all about connections. So, but I honestly don't think there's any gatekeeping based on the qualification process because of the fact that teams who are going through the challenger circuit and trying to make it into Pro League aren't in the same lobbies of Pro League levels. So if you're able to, at the end of the season, beat out teams who played in the Pro League levels, then I feel like you rightfully deserve your spot. Would also be keen to know how you and the CLG boys manage the complexity of competitive Apex versus other more standard esports. How did you take the elements of RNG and control them to your advantages, and what makes Apex specifically the most competitive BR? How we managed the complexity of competitive Apex versus a standard 5v5 is just in Apex, you're trying to limit and control the amount of variables that are happening and trying to put yourself in spots. That's why back in the day, a lot of teams would play hard zone because there's low risk, high reward to that, where it's you're playing edge. There's a lot of variables and shit compared to when you're just sitting into the zone, and then more chaos breaks off towards the end of the game, and that's when all the chaos and variables start popping off. So I'd say we were really, really good at managing the chaos and kind of staying calm and having our plans set, and then taking the elements of RNG and control them to your advantage. Honestly, RNG is just it kind of sucks. I mean, in 50-50s, you get cucked by it, you cannot get cucked by it. So that is kind of tough. I would say the way you're using RNG is kind of how I think of all the variables and shit, and you just play off other people's mistakes. Most of the time, if you wait and play will open up off of teams making mistakes or doing things, that's what I would consider the RNG or a variable of the game. But I'd say we were really good at capitalizing off of teams' mistakes and realizing while it's going on that we have to capitalize it and the timings of the capitalization. And I think Apex is the most competitive BR because of all the abilities and the amount of time it takes to kill. It just makes fights and shit last forever, as well as creating a lot more variables in the game compared to just having smokes and flashbangs and shit like that. You have Gibby ults and all that shit going off. And the movement and gunplay of Apex is honestly next level, so that's why I think it's the most competitive BR by far. Alright, the next question we have is Lawfulness Ancient 668. They say, thanks for doing this. Make sure to drop the link when the video is ready. I got y'all. Why do we see oftentimes drastic differences in regional metas / what goes through your head when planning for this at LAN? So the reason why you see such different drastic metas in the different regions is because of the fact that some regions tend to be more fight heavy, like NA and EU are really a fight heavy, where APAC and other regions would consider playing more hard zone, where NA and EU has always been known as a fight heavy kind of region, and you'd see that with the Gibby Caustics, and then APAC players running Crypto, Watson, Valkyrie at LAN. So when planning for it, it's really, you just have to, again, I talk about the variables. You have to now understand and adapt all the variables that can come from those team compositions while in those lobbies. But for the most part, outside of regional, global play, when you're really just playing in your region for most of the time, everybody's kind of running the same meta. So clearly every region is going to have their own play style and how they approach the game. What do you think of the current gun meta, and what gun meta was the healthiest for the game that you can remember? I honestly think this current gun meta is probably the healthiest we've ever had. excuse me. I honestly think this current gun meta is probably the best we've ever had. And I say that because there's a lot of submachine guns. There's a lot of assault rifles. It's kind of a hard range kind of meta still, but not as bad as it was when the wingman went away. So I honestly have to say the meta that we are currently in, not character meta, but gun meta, is honestly my favorite. The next question we have is from Gentleman Joe Star, and they say, hey Vatroh, thank you for doing great things for the community. Just a couple questions. I got y'all. I love y'all. Is scam meta a necessary evil to remove randomness in Apex? Listen, I am a 100% believer that scans should not belong in an FPS shooter game because it just removes a lot of situational and surrounding awareness, as well as it's pretty much giving people wall hacks for free. You can call that an ability if you want. I'm calling it what it is, and that's wall hacks. How has a no Gibby meta shifted the play style of many teams shift towards more edge play? How do you see as more people are uncomfortable with a switch to more hard zone playstyle? So because everybody is now running the Seer, Horizon, Valk meta composition, I should say, you see everybody playing edge because you really can't play zone with that composition because you can't really lock anything down. And on top of that, you have literally 90% of the lobby running around on edge, just third-partying each other, trying to drop like 30-point games. So a lot of teams are opting to go away from the zone play and play hard edge. But I think when Pro League, the official Pro League, starts back up, we might see a change in that. What is an underrated team comp and why does it include? Okay, I think the most underrated team comp, honestly, is Wraith, Crypto, Caustic. You have Crypto to not only deal shield damage, but to scan and to rotate for beacons. You have Wraith for the micro rotations, and then you have Caustic for the defense. Honestly, if you can make this composition work, I think it's really, really underrated. But again, it's kind of hard to pull off in the fight meta that we are in. I honestly like Empire's take, the Mad Maggie Bloodhound Bangalore, or the Bangalore Bloodhound Wraith on Stormpoint. Tuna Bucko asks, what do you think about the shape of the Earth? Listen, all I gotta say is that shit's flat as fuck. Next we have Noko. I'm just gonna assume Nako, maybe. Hey bud, thanks for taking the time to offer your insights. Guess my main question would be, which part of the randomness is the most frustrating to deal with? I would honestly say teams that would come in off of Valkyrie alts, because we've been in the Valk meta for so long. When teams would come in off Valkyrie metas or Valk alts and grief you, and say even if you were to kill them, because they would cause all that chaos, it would lead to you getting third-partied and just things like that. So I'd honestly say the random Valk alts were the most annoying thing to deal with in competitive play. Next question we have is from Electronic Morning 76. How much math are you guys analyzing? I feel like the math behind BR is immense compared to a classic multiplayer game. Do you guys have advanced analytics on game data, or do you just kind of guess at things or tabulate them on your own? I would say the biggest thing we kind of got to analyzing would be like knowing the timings of other teams' rotations on the POI surrounding us, maximizing like how long it took us to loot harvester, and then maximizing our rotations through to, you know, north zones, south zones, east zones, west zones. But when it comes to actual like mathematics to the data, I would say like you won't see that much, but at the same time, we didn't have like an analyze, we just had a coach. But as best as I can think of it, that's probably as close as you're going to get to that kind of thing in Battle Royale. Next question is from Dubes. They asked, why are there only 2 well-known coaches when there seems to be a drastic need for them? I would honestly say it's because a lot of the players feel that they don't need a coach or that they are better than their coach. So, you know, their coach can't point them out. A lot of people also can't deal with criticism and like handling that criticism and kind of speaking their mind for the betterment of the team. So honestly, that's why I have mentioned here that I'm currently coaching my friend Goat's team, because I feel like, you know, they're another just team of mechanical warlords that just need to learn how to play Battle Royale at the highest level. And so I'm going to try to do that to them, or I'm going to try to teach them. But yeah, I would say just most teams feel the need that they don't need a coach, when honestly, I think having a coach helps immensely. The next question comes from Blah Bob. Nice. I love the name. What do you think about the way most teams don't have accessible VODs for tournaments, either because they're not streamers or they purposely don't stream tournaments? In most competitive games I've played, it's easy to review a match from every team/player's perspective, and I feel like that leads to the advancement of the entire community as a whole. I agree with that. It makes everyone better. Obviously, you can't require everyone to record, but you'd think an instantly accessible VOD system like other source games would be good for Comp Apex. I honestly would love an accessible VOD system like they have in CSGO and like a bunch of other games. Now, do I think Apex is ever going to get that? No, I don't. Honestly, for me, we just felt like we played a lot better off stream. So I would always record so we could do VOD reviews of our POV and see everything that went wrong. But I think a lot of teams just record their gameplay and don't publish it, or at least don't stream. You could also have PC issues, internet issues. But there's a lot of things that go into like streaming your POV, especially in tournaments and Pro League, when like every FPS, every ping matters. But I would absolutely love an accessible VOD system, because then we wouldn't have to worry about it. The next question is from Sugrul. They say, I know pros hate the match point system. Do you think they would favor an 8-game final where you win it all if you win 2 games? If no one wins twice in 8 games, then they go back to match point at 8 points. See, Sugrul, I think if players had a choice, they would just play either 6 games or 12 games, because I feel like that's the most balanced way to declare a winner in Battle Royale, because it's all about who's the most consistent over the X amount of games. But if we're doing anything else, I honestly think the match point system that they have now, maybe if they wanted to bump the point threshold up a little bit, that would be cool. But I think they have it figured out now, and that's just something that's going to be in the scene for forever. Alrighty, next question we have here is from Impressive Painter 2020. Is your YouTube channel just your username here on Reddit? Sorry about that. Is there some kind of platform the pros use to spread insider leaks and gossip? There's a Pro League Discord that all the pros are invited to, where they'll talk about metas and shit, and there's people from ALGS that are in there. But outside of that, I don't think so. I know NA has like a pro player group chat where they probably talk shit and stuff like that. But rather than those 2 things, that's all I know of. As a vet to the scene and a player we have all watched, what is it like going through this subreddit and getting the opinions of the masses about your performances, and how much of the pro scene do you think actually pays attention to this subreddit? Well, when we were doing dog shit, going through the subreddit and was absolutely terrible, but I knew rightfully so, we deserved all the criticism. Like as harsh as we were getting it on Reddit, I knew it was all deserved is the thing, because we weren't performing. So in a way, that sparked me to kind of not shut you guys up in a way, but kind of prove people wrong and prove people that we didn't get signed to CLG just kind of as a fluke. And how much of the pro scene do you think actually pays attention? I don't know, but I know a lot of them go through and will go through and fucking find everything that's said about them. And that's why they always say the subreddit's toxic, it's full of idiots. But honestly, it's like, dude, these people have not experienced competitive play at the highest level. They're just making assumptions off what they have experienced in the game so far, the level of rank play they have gotten to, and what they have seen and what you guys have told them. So I don't really get all the hate for it, but to me, I understand why people would get upset when reading such harsh criticisms about themselves. The next question is from Naren Zapper, and they ask when to grab God spots, when to leave God spots open, how to play off other teams' LOS and their path of rotation in a way that helps your team. When to grab God spots, it all just depends if the God spot's open and the timing of when you're rotating into it. I would honestly recommend to never leave a God spot unless you got a Wraith Porter and leave somebody back at the God spot to hold it down. But if you have a God spot, especially in competitive play, you want to hold that because you can pick off kills and teams rotating in and then have an easier in-game from that spot. And then playing off other teams' LOS is kind of that game, just situational awareness, kind of your IGL leading you on paths and making sure that, everybody has to be aware of everything that's going around, but really just the communication and flow of the rotation is really key to that. How to kill a team in the next zone when you've been coexisting with them in the current zone. In this scenario, how to neutralize the team with advantage. I've seen the low ground team usually winning the 3vc, since the high ground team have to jump at some point and be defenseless against the team on the low ground. If you're in a disadvantage, you have to either find a window of opportunity or make sure that you're healthy over time you kind of get the timings of when shit's gonna hit the fan, and you kind of get the feel for it. So you have to make sure that you're staying healthy, so when the chaos breaks off, you're able to grief them, stay healthy, then heal up, shield swap, and then make your rotation. But sometimes it just comes down to like what utility you have and things like that as well. Compositions, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it. But I would say just finding those small windows of opportunities and then acting on them quickly. When do you usually get prepared to make a play / to rotate for each zone? Any specific countdowns? I wouldn't just say any specific countdowns because you can't really do that. There's too much to analyze in Battle Royale. You don't know where teams are, so you have to analyze, you have to find the route, you have to get the timings of, hoping that this team will fight this team and then we can fight that team, hoping that another team doesn't third party. So it's really, really tough. I'd say if you're a hard zone team, you kind of want to walk in with zone, or find like one of those god spot edge zone spots where you can kind of hold out the people rotating in from zone. And then if you're playing hard zone, just getting into the best possible spot where you think the game is going to end for that end game. Haven't really seen your content. I'm gonna hop on YouTube, binge your videos. Hope you'll be active in the sub. Have a good week, man. See ya. Hey, much love, Zapper. I hope you've had a good week too. Appreciate the fucking sub. And I am definitely gonna be active with content and in the subreddit. I got y'all. The next question we have is from Mystic Fits. They say, do you think that a base pay for Pro League teams would help the mentality of players or make it less intense? I honestly think a base pro for Pro League teams shouldn't be a thing. If anything, I think that the Pro League should be more advertised and more money put into it so we can get more organizations to sign the Pro League teams. I definitely think it'll help the mentality of players. Definitely, if you're not getting paid. But honestly, most people, are making a little bit of money off Twitch. Everybody's grinding for an org spot. So I guess like a base pay, like minimum wage would be kind of cool for Pro League. But anything outside of that, I just feel like it kind of it doesn't de-incentivize orgs coming into the game, but it kind of makes that a little bit more difficult in my opinion. But it would definitely help the mental. I mean, as anybody, if you're not making money playing video games and you can make money, we're all going to choose that route. The next question we have is from YSTEM. They said, how did you get scouted as a player and how has the change as more and more talent is developing? So how me and Nano joined CLG was me, Nano, and our friend Aj were competing under the team name Asuras for about 2 months. I just reset all my subs on Twitch, so I really started competing to make money while playing video games again because I lost all my money from Twitch. So one day, Nano is smurfing with his girlfriend, and Jake, our coach, was their third, and Jake was currently scouting at the time to sign a new team to CLG. And so Nano had popped off in this game that they were playing together. Jake had asked Nano if he was competing or not. Nano said, yeah, I'm competing with my teams. And then CLG reached out to us. Unfortunately, though, that was when the Pro League was starting, and me, Aj, and Nano didn't have enough pro points to get into the Pro League, even though we were signed to CLG. So then Aj decided to step down. And honestly, to the day, it's the most honorable thing anybody's ever done for us. And honestly, as more and more talent is developing, I'd say that it just makes people need to keep grinding because they know that there's people who can replace their job. So I really, really think that overall it makes the game and just the scene more competitive as a whole. The next question we have is from Apex Infinergy. And they asked, do you drop hot or POI? What's your favorite loadout? And do you tend to switch weapons to fit in-game play better? Example, Prowler after first ring. How often do you scan beacons? And do you move early or gatekeep? So in competitive, you want to find your POI. In pubs, just hot drop, of course. But in competitive play, find a POI that fits how you want to play. If you want to play zone, find a POI in the middle of the map. If you want to play hard edge, you can, find a POI on the outer edge of the map. You kind of always want to run kind of range assault rifles and something up close like a car or really a shotgun in competitive play. So yes, you would definitely be dropping guns to like utilize the best things, but of course there's always those guns that excel in competitive play, the flatlines, the R301s, PKs, cars, things like that, wingmans. How often do you scan beacons and do you move early or gatekeep? Move early or gatekeep just depends on if the team is a hard zone team or a hard edge team. Depending on if you're a hard zone team, you probably are going to hit that first beacon and just start pushing it to where you think in-game is going to end based off that. But if you're playing hard edge, you can kind of hit beacons kind of later into the game, and it's really not that big of a deal. So the next question we have is from Discount Hanzo. And they say, when is it good to push a fight versus leave a fight? I have major trouble knowing when to dip or ape. Plus, kudos to you for being so heavy in the scene and willing to make content straight from the fans that want to know. I'll definitely be watching your vids on YouTube, man. Can't wait. Appreciate you, bro. I'm constantly looking to improve, even though I play comp maybe a few times a month, but any info I can get to improve is valuable info to me. I also want to thank you for asking what the community wants to see or understand and making content tailored to these questions. You're a good person. Keep it up. Dude, I could fucking cry right now. So let's answer this question before that happens. So when it comes to pushing a fight and like knowing when to leave, you have to take in a bunch of different variables. It's why Battle Royale is so tough. You have to know of all the teams around you, especially in Apex. Like, you cannot go down. So if like you see your teammates getting weak, make sure to slow down unless like you have, you know, a great window of opportunity, like I was saying earlier, to like really execute and clear the fight fast. Because it's kind of like once you're committed to that fight, it's kind of hard to break out, right? So you kind of have to make sure that, you know, the surroundings, you have to understand, you know, okay, if this team is going to come third party us, how much time is it going to take? You know, what's the estimated time that it's going to take for them to reach us? And, you know, how much time will we have to reset and then prepare for that next team? But really, I'd say the biggest thing is not going down in fights and making sure that teams around you don't just have a free third party, but also just start choosing your fights more carefully is really the biggest key to it all, and especially in competitive play. But I just want to say, Hanzo, I appreciate all the kind words, dude. It really does mean a lot. Okay, for some reason, Goth Detective's questions were popping up, so it like brought me to this other screen. They asked, do you think the high levels of RNG and competitives BR is fairly reflected in the distribution of prize money? How is this affected by the growing prize pools? It's crazy to me that Dark Zero won more in 2 tourneys than TSM in 2 years before them. I think that they are fairly reflected in the distribution of prize money. It's more so, it's really tough to reward all the teams evenly because you have so many teams in one lobby competing for all this money compared to where it's just like a bracket type style of play. So I honestly felt that the prize pool was fairly reflected. You know, if you're in that top 1, 2, 3, you're making good money, especially in like the Pro League. The Pro League maybe could have some more funding, but like you say here, it's crazy to you that Dark Zero won more in 2 tourneys than TSM in 2 years before them. You also have to think how much Apex has grown since in those past 2 years. And not only that, but how much more supported the competitive scene is now by EA. But I absolutely agree with you. It is absolutely crazy. To me, it's more crazy that Dark Zero was able to win back-to-back lands in Battle Royale, especially Apex. I mean, that's fucking tippable, bro. But yeah, because I think of the prize pool distribution being like good and fair, it's only going to be beneficial for the prize pools to grow, of course. How good is the point system and match point system for ALGS compared to other esports? I honestly think, at least for Apex, I think they have a perfect system. I really don't mind match point because you kind of need that like spice, I guess, in those tournaments. So it's really dope for the viewers. It sucks for the players. I'm sure the players would rather do like a 12 game, you know, you play 6 and then you play 6 and then the top 2, or, you know, most overall score. That'd be the most fair. But I honestly think that ALGS has a really good point system and really good kind of layout. The next question comes from Cairo Nohane, and they say, personally, I would love a first-hand perspective of how things work in the competitive scene for a BR in general. Coming from League/VOW, where there's way more structure, the Apex scene seems much more open and chaotic. Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. It's just because there's no like really supported like amateur scene outside of the challenger circuit. So it's up to the people of the Apex community to then come up with these competitive Apex tournaments and invite said teams. And so it's really, really tough for like those like lower kind of leagues and shit to start up in Apex, especially because I think EA limits those kind of prize pools. Like outside of ALGS, like you can have a max prize pool of like $10,000, which isn't really that much. But also when you're coming into a battle royale, when there's 20 teams, you know, in a lobby, and God knows how many teams like trying to make it into Pro League, there's obviously going to be way more structure in like the 5v5 kind of bracket style tournaments, you know, and how to come up in that, where it's like battle royale, it's all about just who's the most consistent. And then when it comes to the tournaments and stuff outside of Pro League, it kind of sucks because it's relied on people from the Apex community to run these tournaments. And finally, the last question of the video is or at least the last question of Reddit is your typical rogue. They say, this is awesome. I have a ton of questions. I hope you have time to answer. Well, I do. Holy shit, this is a lot. Just kidding. Just kidding. With Fuse, Horizon, and Seer taking the comp scene by storm in the last few months, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on the ingenuity or innovation. Okay, listen. Don't judge me here. Listen, you are so much smarter than me. I don't know what this word is. Or innovation. That word I do know. Or potentially lack thereof pro players. Okay. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on the ingenuity or innovation or potentially lack thereof pro players. To me, it always seems like pro players are a little behind the ball. A lot of us casual players knew Seer was OP after his nerf, knew Fuse was the ultimate infiltrating legend, and knew Horizon had a place in aggro team comps well before teams were actually playing her in legit tourneys. Damn. Okay. Hey, I see you. I see you. Okay. Little shots fired there. Little flex. What is going on behind the scenes? Did pros know these legends were great as well, but weren't comfortable playing them until recently? Okay. I think honestly, you kind of hit it on the nail here. I would agree that as a pro player, it's kind of scary to step outside of the meta and what everybody is running and what the successful teams are running to then try to like innovate the meta. But without that, teams like Furia and shit who like completely swap the meta, you know, without their innovation and their practice of those compositions, like we wouldn't be in the meta that we are now. I think because we're in the meta that we are now, you are going to see the Fuses be able to play, the Horizons be able to play, compared to when the meta was strictly Valk, Gibby, Caustic. What the fuck is a Fuse going to do to a Caustic Gibby team? Like, let's be real here. A Horizon, I completely agree with you. But at the time, Edge teams were, you know, kind of dabbling with Horizon and kind of dabbling with Seer, but they weren't running like the straight just no Gibby comp because everybody in the lobby had Gibby. But when no teams in the lobby have Caustic or Gibby, it allows for like, you know, the Fuses, the fucking Crypto Caustics. A lot more comps can work when the meta is a lot more open. I also think just the meta stepping away from Gibby Caustic to OP ass defensive characters is going to allow for all that. I do give you your credits though, because I agree with you. But I would say it's a lot scary, you know, when you're competing for a lot of money on the line and you don't have serious scrim practice to practice compositions and you can only practice them in ranked. You want to know you're going to do what's best and what you think is best to make that money in that tournament. So going on to the second question here, do you think we'll start to see more definitive lines between team playstyles? There always seemed to be a dominant comp that the vast majority of pro teams use. Sometimes that comp is passive, sometimes aggro. It always surprises me to see teams switch up their comp based on the legends that are considered the best at the time instead of based on their playstyle. In the future, I feel like we'll see teams develop more defined identities. Yes. Listen. No, like, dude, 90% of the teams that are running Seer, Horizon, Valk are not good enough fighting teams to pull the comp off. So I completely agree with you. We'll have teams fully built around taking enemies by surprise and getting the first knock. Teams built around the idea of every player being able to get in and out of danger as quickly as possible. Teams built entirely around defense and forcing enemies to fight you on your terms. Teams built around getting to the zone as quickly as possible, built around forcing enemies out of space and taking space. Teams built to being perfectly balanced. We have rotate teams and hard edge teams, aggro comps and more passive comps, but I think we'll see more varied identities in the future. What are your thoughts? I think you nailed it. Again, I would refer back to teams kind of being scared to kind of step out what the best teams in the game are doing and try to, go on their more, we're going to play what we think is best kind of path. And a lot of them don't have coaches in that kind of third, fourth, POV to throw in those suggestions. Like Raven's a really good, like in-depth kind of coach when it comes to like the meta switch ups and things like that. Cause like I can tell you have like deeply looked into the different compositions and like the abilities and shit. Like you named off like 6 different variables or variations of comps that you can have. I completely agree with you that over time we'll see that. I think we'll also see that more once Pro League starts up and shit is really on the line and teams can't just risk running Seer and shit on edge and being dog shit. So with due in time, I think the identities will come. I really do, dude. I mean, I completely agree with everything you're saying right here. The best example I can kind of give to this is CLG was running, when everybody switched to the Furia comp, CLG on World's Edge started running Crypto Caustic Wraith, and then on Stormpoint started running Bangalore Crypto Bloodhound, I believe it was, and I absolutely loved it. But it's because now we're in that open kind of away from Gibby caustic meta where we can see all these variations go down and be successful. How do you think about the current balance of legends? There are some abilities that I think definitely have to go, but I think there are a lot of legends that could be used in comp right now that we aren't seeing. Are there any legends that are underutilized or not utilized at all that you believe have a place in comp? The current balance of legends I think is good. I think Horizon is OP. I think Seer is OP. Rather than that, like Valkyrie, it kind of sucks because just her ultimate alone is just so fucking good, where it's like, dude, with an ultimate like that, like every team in competitive play is really going to run her. You see, I'm pretty sure TSM has stopped running Valkyrie, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong with that. But when it comes to legends that are underutilized or not utilized at all, but have a place in comp, I think Crypto is really good for early zone teams. I think now that TSM has started running Fuse, you'll see a lot more Fuses. Like if you guys remember, if you really like about the competitive Apex team, you remember the old Furia like being down running Fuse and shit during the Gibby and stuff meta. But now that we're kind of away from the Gibby caustic meta, teams are allowed to now try out new compositions, and I think we're going to see a lot more teams try different things. And like you said earlier, I think teams are going to start to find their own identities. But really, when it comes to like that innovation shit of Apex, like I'm kind of stupid. Like when it comes to that shit, I kind of like relying not really on meta, but it's like, dude, if you can run Horizon fucking Seer Valk, why the hell wouldn't you? Like talking about fucking black, you know what I'm saying? So, but I believe like people like Raven, there are people, it seems like you as well, there are a lot of compositions that people have not tried out that could definitely work. How much does chemistry playstyle affect a team's performance in your opinion? I've always thought that chemistry was the most important thing for a team, but when I look at the players' teams pick up a lot of team, it seems like they're just grabbing the best players skill-wise they can. To me, chemistry is like really everything. It's how well like your team's gonna gel together. It's how like well you're gonna be able to ride the ups and downs of competitive, especially battle royale competitive play. How well you're gonna be able to break down and really not critique and like kind of shit on each other, but critique each other in a way where that person isn't like talking to you negatively or in like talking down on you in that manner. But I honestly think it's because they're grabbing the best mechanical player skill wise, or somebody that they know and they're comfortable playing with. That's why I said earlier in the video that esports is like really a friendship, like, you know, connection type shit. But you can always like build chemistry with people as long as they're willing to learn and change. But okay, I am gonna end the video here. Thank you guys so much for all the questions. I just looked down at the recording. I've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes. So now I'm gonna go onto my computer, throw this in the program, chop it all up, edit it, and so you guys can see this tomorrow. Seriously, thank you guys so much for all the questions. If you made it this far in the video, please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to try my best to cover a lot of NA competitive Apex. I'm going to be asking the subreddit again for questions like this, probably during the season and once the season starts up. I also do stream every day on Twitch at 5 p.m. Eastern. If you would like to support me there, follow me on Twitter, all the good shit. It has been awesome. Seriously, thank you guys so much for taking your time for all these questions. With all that being said, it's your boy Vatroh. Have a fucking blessed day. Until next time, till tomorrow, fucking see ya. Peace.